another driver who also saved the day, Robin, showed up at the venue that night that we'd never met before. And all of a sudden, there was this guy that was just carrying our gear out the door. And we were like, oh my gosh, that must be Robin. And so this was all on the London show. It was crazy. We got a parking ticket. I burnt a hole in my pants with the iron. Like, there was a lot going on. Every time we've played London, it's been an absolute disaster. And then the shows have turned out to be some of my favorite in my life. So I was so glad you came and sang.
Hello and welcome to Country Roads with me, Ben Earl. This is the podcast where together we learn more about our favorite country artists through the places that have made them who they are today. Now, I'm a big believer that everywhere you go becomes a part of who you are. You leave your tracks in the dirt and the land leaves its mark on your music. This is Country Roads. My guest today is Canadian singer-songwriter Tenille Townes. Tenille's performed alongside some of the biggest names in country music: Shania Twain, Miranda Lambert, Keith Urban, and so many more. But she's a country star in her own right, with not one, but two Canadian country number ones to her name. Tenille also made history as the first artist ever to win Female Artist of the Year award at the Canadian Country Music Awards 5 times in a row. Now, she may only be 5'2", but Tenille has an enormous heart, and she firmly believes that music is medicine. This pocket rocket loves the road and connecting with fans at her live shows. But I wonder which places have made their way into her music and into her heart. This is Tenille Townes. Tenille, so great to see you again. How are you doing?
It's so great to see you. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
This podcast, basically, all about the places that have inspired you. But what I want to know right now is, where are you? Because it looks really cool.
Thank you. I'm in my little music room at my house here in Nashville. It's a beautiful day. I have this view out the window where I get to kind of see my neighborhood. And at night when I'm working on music in here, there's one street lamp that's exactly out the window, and it glows this beautiful amber color, and I love it.
Oh,
so,
wow.
But yeah.
That sounds so amazing. Mm-hmm. Is Sam there with you, your dog?
Sam is, he's sleeping in the next room, but he is present and accounted for. He's always popping in. I think he really is oh, is she singing again? Yeah, I think so. He's very he's just oh yeah. He doesn't get very excited about it, but it's fine.
I always wonder how musicians have animals, like dogs particularly, because when you go away on tour, what does Sam do?
Well, so he goes to this spot that he actually loves. There's a bunch of dogs and some friends of friends that started this kennel and boarding spot. And so he goes out to the farm with them and they take the best care of him. I get pictures and videos every day. But it's definitely on my vision board to be working towards a bus so that Sam can come with us, because the van life or the bandwagon life is it's not the life for dogs. It's too, he would hate it. It's too tricky. But once we get up to a bus phase, then I think he could come along. And for any UK touring, that would, I really got the private plane on the on the vision board as well. So we'll try to work our way there so he could come then too.
Is he ever a bit funny with you when you pick him up after a tour? Does he sort of take a bit of time to warm back up to you, or is he all right straight away?
He's always excited. Yeah. So thank gosh, that was the best homecoming, because honestly, it's such a high on the road. I really struggle sometimes coming down from that and coming home and just being so quiet and doing laundry. But he's become such a saving grace of the making the highs and the lows, the swinging, between the circus of that feels so much better. So, and he's always just so excited to see me. It's the best part about coming home.
Oh, that's so. I was going to ask actually, because you did a massive tour. We would say autumn 2024. I think you'd say fall.
Nice.
Fall.
I'm good either way. Autumn sounds so much more beautiful.
Sounds
I think
more
we
poetic,
should go with that.
Yeah.
Definitely more poetic.
Okay, in the autumn of 2024,
yes.
You did this massive tour across Canada. I mean, I'm a musician myself, and I find sometimes I feel more at home on the road. What about you?
Yeah.
Do you have a preference, home or touring?
I think, honestly, I do feel very much at home on the road. There's something that's kind of I think it's just about being present, really, and about like all the rest of the noise in my head, all the thoughts and the doubts and the like overthinking everything, which I'm constantly doing. But like that just all sort of silences when I'm on stage, and it feels like a really true expression of myself, and I get to feel a part of a community in the room of everyone coming together, around the songs and feeling like the leader of the room up there. It's like it's so beautiful to me to be a part of that feeling, and it is a high very much. And so I love being on the road, and if I could live out there all the time, I certainly would. But that's not realistic in the the reality of, or I also need to be home writing and recording and working on new things. So learning to love being home more, and my dog definitely helps with
I love
that.
the fact you used the word circus just then, because I've always felt like that. You sort of rock up at a place, you're traveling circus. It's like we're
Oh yeah.
here, get to live in a place for a day or two, and then you leave, and then you're off to the next place. And I love
And you
that.
just start all over again, like set up. It's very much like a Groundhog Day kind of feeling. And you look out the window and you're like, oh, I'm in Winnipeg today. Oh, I'm in Vancouver now. Like it's such a strange, like it really is like a circus life. And sometimes I just laugh about how weird it is. I'm like, I'm in a moving vehicle with a bunch of bunk beds, and I'm just like traveling around for a 90-minute set playing songs. And it's like, it very much feels like a traveling circus, and there's no sleep. And also, it's really fun.
Now, this podcast is all about the kind of places that have made us as musicians who we are. So I have to start off asking about your childhood and your hometown, Grande Prairie, Alberta. 60,000 people. I mean, you've got a street named after you there now, which is the coolest thing in the world. But
Thank you.
what was your upbringing like?
Well, it was a lot of wide open spaces. It was so much blue sky and a lot of room to just kind of dream about being whatever you want to be. And it was like, it felt very like small town spirited in a way where everybody kind of showed up for one another, like whether it was a fundraiser for a neighbor or for our youth shelter or the cancer relay walks or like even somebody's wedding, like whatever it was just like everyone was always showing up and supporting one another. So I grew up very much, believing in the power of what can happen when a small group of people come together. And we started an event called Big Hearts for Big Kids that looks out for the youth shelter in my hometown. And I started that when I was 15. And my mom would drive me around after school. It's like winter, like 9 months out of the year there. So we would drive around in all of our winter gear, and I'd go like visit all these different small businesses and just invite them to be a part of it. And I was so surprised at how many people said yes and were willing to show up. And the night of our first little fundraiser event, like the shelter doors had to close due to lack of funding. And it was sort of a moment where we all looked around the room and we were like, we're supposed to be here, rallying for this cause right now. And that night we raised $30,000, and I was like, if this is what people can do, and we all, come together and have different raffles and silent auctions and whatever else it might take. We had the shelter back up and running up on their feet, in like 3 years, and we've kept the event going ever since. And it's been pretty special to think about how many kids have come in and out of those doors. So when I think about the place where I was raised and how it impacted me as an artist and a human, I think it definitely instilled in me this belief that anything's possible if a group of people come together.
Definitely. And do you know what? I saw, you're probably too humble to say, but I think you've raised like $1.9 million for the
Yeah.
charity for Big Hearts for Big Kids, which is just to give that back to your community. I mean, you can tell it obviously your hometown means a great deal to you. I actually had a look around. There was
Did
yeah, there's a
you?
YouTube video of like sort of a walk around downtown Grande Prairie. I'll be honest, it
That's
wasn't the most
amazing.
inspiring. The actual downtown bit, it just seemed like it could be
Yeah,
anywhere. Um,
it can. Yeah, yeah.
but some of the other places, is it Muskogee Park? That looks
Muskogee
incredible.
Park, look at you go. Well, great, Paul. It's beautiful. They have an awesome amphitheater, and it's just gorgeous. My school that I went to from like kindergarten to grade 8, and then also my high school is actually around the corner too. But we used to walk there during gym class or recess and go sledding down the hills at Muskogee Park. It was so fun.
You go sledding like in your breaks at school, like after lunch and
Oh
stuff?
yeah, we'd like run so that we could get as many trips down the hill as we could before the bell rang. But yeah, it was really close by, so we spent a lot of time in Muskogee Park growing up.
That sounds so idyllic. Like in England, where I'm from, people like smoking behind the bike shed and, drinking, and you're sledding down a hill in Muskogee Park. That sounds lovely.
We did this, yeah. The smoking part was more in high school, but but yeah, the sledding was really fun in the elementary years for sure. And that park is, yeah, it's gorgeous. There's like a campsite. There's a whole little reservoir. It's really pretty.
If anyone hasn't looked, just look for Grande Prairie, Alberta. It is beautiful. It was absolutely stunning. There's also
Thank you for looking at
No,
that.
I
That's
want to
so
know where you're
cool.
from. I want to know. But there's a place called, is it Snap Lake?
It's Bear Lake,
Bear Lake,
yes.
sorry.
No, you're totally fine. I actually grew up right on Bear Lake. My dad like put a little water skiing course in this lake, which honestly is more kind of like a swamp. We'd have to like paddle boat out into the middle of the lake where it was deep enough because it was a pretty big lake. But yeah, it was gorgeous. I remember there were a couple years where like these eagles would come and kind of nest nearby, and so you're just like watching these giant pine trees and spruce trees and just like being near the water like that. It was gorgeous. And then right on the other side of the lake, like, or what's all around the lake, is like fields and mostly wheat, a little bit of canola. So when you're driving, it's just like different shades of golden and yellow depending on the time of year. And even though it's super cold, we get a lot of sunshine, which I was grateful for. And so it's really bright with all the snow, and it's just like the sun is out and it's white, and it's just like a lot of wide open spaces.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've just got the image in my head for some reason of you in summer, just sat with your legs dangling in the lake writing songs. I don't know if that happened or not,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm imagining in my
I
head.
like that image. We'll go with that. Yeah.
Did I read that your dad was a professional water skier?
Yeah, he was. He competed like nationally in Canada for a long time, which is a really weird Canadian sport when I think about it. I'm like, Dad, there's only like there would still be ice on the lake in April, and he'd start training and in like these intense dry suits and wetsuits and just trying not to freeze in the water. And I was like, we probably should have picked like snow skiing, but he was really into the water skiing. So we spent a lot of time on that lake, and then we'd also like go camping to different lakes around the areas too, and lots of time on the water.
Was there ever a chance that you might become a water skier, or was music always?
There was a short window where I definitely drove the boat for him, and I would like help him train a little bit, and I loved it. We'd ski a bunch as kids, and I really enjoyed getting like the younger kids up, and like kind of being like a little assistant coach was always my favorite part. I competed like twice and I did awful, and it just made me so nervous, and I was like, yeah, I don't think this is my vibe. I'm gonna go play the guitar now.
Does it help to be taller or shorter in water skiing?
I'm sure that the height would help reaching on the course for sure. You take every extra bit you can. But yeah, that's a good point. I was a little short for it.
Yeah, I mean, you might still be a little too short. I don't know. Sorry, not to be rude.
I am. I'm like 5. I'm 5'2" on a good day. So yeah, that could be pushing it.
Yeah, you have good balance though.
Thank you. Yeah. It's how you use it. It's the resiliency of your skill that's more impressive.
So you've like painted this amazing picture of where you're from. It sounds really country. I know it's obviously
It actually
Canada,
is.
but so when did that love for country start? Was it in high school? Were you the musical one, like listening to country songs or just songs in general?
Yeah, I was just always listening to all different kinds of music, and a lot of people in my school were. I mean, we had like, the Grande Prairie Stampede, and a lot of like, we'd go watch the barrel racing and the bull riding, and like, there's a lot of surrounding small town communities around Grande Prairie too, and most people grow up in the counties like surrounding. So it does feel very country. I never thought about country music as being like defined to a place, because it was just in the mix of whatever I was listening to, in my grandmother's kitchen through their radio. Like, it was just part of, I guess, the soundtrack of what I grew up listening to. It was a little bit of everything, like a lot of classics with my grandparents, like Patsy Cline, and a lot of Dolly Parton, like Coat of Many Colors is one of my favorite songs of all time. And So that sounds like home to me. And then when I drive around with my dad, it was always a little more like rock and roll, some like Fleetwood Mac or U2, and with my mom, it was a lot of like iconic female voices like Shania for sure. And so a lot of those influences were a part of it. But I don't know, the more I grow up and like think back on my time of listening to country music as a kid, and the more that I've traveled with music, it's like the walls that we put around the genres or something are so strange to me. And I think what makes country music feel like home is that it talks about people's homes, and like you can insert whatever image that is. Like I'm sure there's so many parts even of growing up in England where it's like it's a feeling of home more than a place, you know? Country music does a good job of that.
But I think that's why it's having such a resurgence, or it's growing so much, is because, like you said, it's that feeling of home, and being able to tell your story, and that's such a universal story. I think home. We
It
all,
is.
wherever we are in the world, we have our home. We all have our takes on country, like on the Canadian side, and But
Yep.
I totally agree with you. I was listening to every word you said, but when you said barrel dancing, sorry, barrel racing, you said, didn't you?
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
what is barrel racing? I have no idea what that is. I want to know what that is.
Oh, that's funny. It's okay, so like a rodeo event, like where they would like ride the bull or something, but one of the events is barrel racing, and so you take a horse and then have never done it. I've only ever watched and cheered, but you take the horse and you're timed where you kind of go in like figure eight patterns around different barrels, and then you
Oh.
come back to the finish line, and then you're timed by like, and you shouldn't knock over the barrel or you're penalized for time and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of cool.
I think if anyone else listening, if they had the same thought as me, that was you just raced barrels. I don't know why. I thought you just tipped barrels down and sort of placed bets on which was the fastest. That
That's
makes a lot-
amazing.
I had no idea what it was.
You're like, I'm pushing my barrel further than yours. That's so funny. No, it involves horsing.
Racing between barrels and figure of eight. Okay, that's makes more sense. So yeah, you talked briefly about high school, and I really want to talk about your song "Jersey on the Wall" because it's got such a powerful story. I know it's not about your high school specifically, but before we get into it, I just want to, if it's okay with you, read out the lyrics to the chorus because I think it's just so incredible.
Thank you.
If I ever get to heaven, I got a long list of questions like, how do you make a snowflake? Are you angry when the earth quakes? How does the sky change in a minute? How do you keep this big rock spinning? And why can't you stop a car from crashing? Forgive me, I'm just asking. And so I know it's probably quite weird saying that to you, like in this.
No, but I'm just like, your voice is, if I ever have an audiobook or something like voiceover work, that was beautiful. That was so good.
Thank you very much. No, but thank you. But the way you sing that song, I mean, I think we probably went to very different high schools, the impression I get. But again, it's so universal. Can you tell the story behind Jersey on the Wall?
Yeah. Okay, so I had just recently moved to Nashville, and I was still making trips back and forth to Canada to like play gigs. And one of them that I got booked on was in Grand Manan, New Brunswick, which was a tiny island on the east coast of Canada, like way, way, way far from where I'm from. But I took like planes, trains, automobiles, and a ferry to get there. And I show up in this, town, and the teacher had booked me to play for the school. And so she picked me up at the airport, and we drove like 2 hours, and then we get on this ferry and we ride another 2 hours. And by the time we get to the island, it's like 11 o'clock at night. And they had me staying in the longest running inn in all of Canada, and it looked like a haunted mansion. Like I was so terrified. I was just like, we're pulling up this winding road, and I'm like, where am I? I was like almost convinced the teacher to like stay in the room next to me because the whole inn was empty. But anyways, I wake up the next morning and I look out my window, and it was one of the most beautiful places I'd ever seen. Like it was on the ocean, and there was this gorgeous lighthouse and like all these wildflowers, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this place. And then I played for the school, and I met this amazing group of people. All the students, like, they just had each other's backs. Like, it was really beautiful. And that night I played a community show where all the parents and teachers came, and then went back, and the teacher pulled me aside, and she told me that there had recently been a car accident on this island with 5 of the kids from the school, 4 of which I'd been hanging out with all day and had no idea what they'd just been through. And one of them, her name was Danielle. She was the star basketball player, valedictorian. She had just graduated with a full ride scholarship, and she was taken in this fluke wreck. And so I just wept with Miss Ward, like even more so moved by this town and everyone I just met. And like tragedy anywhere is something, but tragedy in a small town is something else. And I just was so enamored and came back to Nashville. And shortly after that, one of my friends from home lost her little brother. And it just kind of put me in this place of spinning and more of these questions. And so I had flown back for the high school graduation of Grand Manan, like to surprise the kids the following spring. And I sat in the gym and it was just like everyone was piled in. There's 20 kids graduating, best kind of graduation ever. And Danielle's parents get on stage and they gave their daughter's honorarium scholarship to Zoe, who was a year younger and who was also in the car the night of the accident. And like, there's just not a dry eye in this place.
God.
And I looked over on the wall and they had her jersey, her basketball jersey, like hanging in memory. And I just thought about the questions that I have for God and that I think it's okay to have those. I think there's healing just in the conversation itself. And so, but yeah, that combined with my friends, but I just was like spinning in all these questions and I picked up my guitar. And that's what I love about writing music is it's like when I don't know how to process something or how to like understand it, like somehow I can write about it way better or easier than I can talk about it. And so, but yeah, that's where this song came from. And it's been so wild to me. And it's been one of my greatest honors, I think, touring and traveling with music is like hearing stories from people about, you know, someone in their life that they miss and that they've lost too soon and how they've had some similar questions for God. And it's like, okay, we can kind of stand together in those. And it's always incredible to me to witness people's courage to talk about that because it's really hard.
It's an incredible story. I mean, I'm a songwriter too, and the fact that you're able to distill that thought into a song, I find so amazing. And I know you wrote it with, is it Tina Parole and Gordy Sampson? You know, Gordy Sampson, particularly massive writer. But I've been in writing sessions where someone would tell me a story like the one you just told, and I'd say, yeah, but we can't write that. You know, how are we going to write that song? And how's that song going to get on radio eventually as well, in the US particularly? But you did it with that song. I mean, how do you remember writing that song? How you sat down and told that story and like, let's write this song?
Yeah, and I had a couple of the lines of the verse started and was telling them about this group of people that I'd met and gotten to know over the past year. And they were just like, oh my gosh, both of them were such patient, like stewards of this idea. And not one time in the room was it ever talked about like, let's make this commercial or what would be a smart choice of this for it to like become a hit. Like it was never based on that. It was only based on how can we like help serve this feeling and this questioning and let's just create something about that. And for it to have found its way, like it was such a strange choice to have ever sent to radio or to have been a song that would raise its hand for that, but it really came from people responding to it and feeling something about it that was why we decided to move forward with it in that way. So, but yeah, the day that we wrote it, we all felt I would say very tuned in and very just open to like, sometimes you have to really arm wrestle a song. I'm sure you feel this way too, where it's like, okay, you really got to like, you're hammering it, you're coming in at it from so many angles and you're trying things and then you're throwing that away and you're trying something else and you're just like really, really impressioning your hands or your creativity on it. And with this song, it was a very different approach where we just kind of were trying to let go. And I feel like let the song breathe and become what it was supposed to be and just sort of be a vessel for that. So it was an emotional day that we wrote it. I remember all of us looking around at each other like, okay, this one hurts. Yeah.
I love that idea that you said of arm wrestling because, you know, I lose a lot of those arm wrestles in the day. But
yeah,
I think when the idea is like really pure, often the song can come through. And what I love about, I've been looking up a lot about you, and we've obviously written once. We sung on stage together, but you've got such a passion for music, and I really want to talk about what happened to you when you were 9 years old, and You go to a Shania, because the reason I say that is because you still seem to have this smile on your face that I imagine you had when you were that age. And I've seen the videos you posted when you were younger singing, and you flash forward to you now. But can you please tell the story, your Shania story?
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I was a diehard Shania Twain fan. I knew all the songs by heart. And I also just loved her path. Like, she was from a really small town in the middle of nowhere, Canada, and found her way in the world. And I always just thought that was so inspiring. And so I got tickets as a gift, a Christmas gift for her concert. And when it came through Edmonton, Alberta, which is 5 hours away from my hometown. And so I had made a sign, and it said, Shania, can I please sing with you, in like sparkly letters on neon, cardboard. And I asked my mom if she'd make me a costume so that I could look like her Miami concert DVD that I'd watched 5 million times. I was 9 years old. And so she didn't make the costume, and we were getting in the car to go to the show. And she was like, I just ran out of time. And she just like literally was like, give me 2 seconds. So she ran in the house, she plugged the glue gun in, and she like glued the stripes down my pants to look like the outfit, and it dried on the dash of the car, like on our drive.
Mom is
to
a
this
hero.
show. Total hero. Yeah. So anyways, I'm at this concert all dressed up with my son. Like, I'm singing every word. I'm just having the best day of my whole life. And when we walked in the place, my mom was like, you need to just brace your heart, like prepare your expectations that there's a lot of people in this place, and you're going to sing with Shania from your seat all night. Like, we're just going to go have a good time. And I was like, totally. But like,
you already had the thought in your head that you might like sing with Shania.
I was convinced. I was like, Mom, it's happening. Like, I'm singing with Shania tonight. And like, my sign said, Shania, can I please sing with you? Like, I was like, it had already happened for me in my mind. And my mom was like, okay, let's just calm down. But anyway, we get in there, and I'm singing all the songs. I'm having the best time. And by some fluke, she's very known to like look out in her crowd for young people, which I think is so beautiful. But she saw my sign, and out of 18,000 people at the show, she came around and like she reached her microphone. It was a circular stage, and there was like another young girl a couple seats down from me, and she let her sing a line. Like, she gave her the microphone from the stage, and I thought, oh my gosh, what if she comes around and like lets me sing a line? And she comes walking towards me, and instead of putting the microphone out, she like reached her hand and pulled me right up there. And I threw the sign, and I just like danced around the stage with her, and we would just like duetting back and forth, and her stage had 3 tiers. And I remember the floor was like checker plate, like tin, and we're like, wow. I was just like, I'm on the stage. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And I looked out, and I'd never seen what it looked like on a stage where like all the lights were in a haze. Like, you couldn't see anybody out there. All I heard was like everyone screaming and stuff. Anyway, we talked for a minute, and then she sent me back to my seat. But that was it. I was just like, this fire has been lit. Like, I have got to, this is what I want to do.
What song did you sing together? What was it?
We sang, she brought me up on a deep cut of the Up album, which was What a Way to Wanna Be.
Wow.
And so when the song finished, we were like on the 3rd tier, and she goes, okay, I know your sign said you want to sing with me, but like, I want to hear you sing, like sing a piece of something. And I was like, anything? She's like, I mean, anything of mine. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So I started singing Honey, I'm Home, and just the chorus, like by myself, and the whole, I just remember hearing everybody screaming, and I was like, this is it. So it's my dream now to keep paying that forward. And I had a really crazy full circle moment last year where we were invited to go back on tour with her, and we opened up, a handful of her shows on the run, and we played back in Edmonton almost 20 years, like to the day that happened.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. So definitely a full circle moment. She was so great. She talked about it and showed the picture of when I was 9 on the screen, and like brought me back out to sing Party for Two with her, which was pretty cool. So yeah, she's such a hero of mine, and forever will be.
And I heard that, was there a fan of yours that brought a sign saying, can I be the Tenille to your Shania? Is that right?
Yes. I was like, I just saw the sign and immediately was crying. I was like, you are so creative and brilliant. I was like, get over here. It was so awesome. We had a few on this past Canadian tour that I love it when people bring signs. Like, there's such an effort that goes into like, and I remember what it was. I was so excited for the concert making my sign. It's like, I look at all these young girls out there showing up with theirs, and it just kind of makes me just beam at the thought of how music just makes you feel like you belong in the world. And it did for me growing up. And it's pretty surreal to think that the songs that I'm creating are finding their ways into these young people's lives and that they're excited to sing along and keep the circle going. So
It also sounds like you had a really supportive family network, particularly your mum and dad, which kind of leads me on to your song "Somebody's Daughter," because that song, when I first heard it, it sounds like a big up tempo bop. I was like, sort of, this is wicked, somebody, and then I sort of dialed into the lyrics, and I was like, this song is really like it's got a lot of depth to it.
thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. It was kind of like the production was a bit of a disguise to go, let's make this feel like a bop. And then if someone actually sits with it and learns what the song is, like that was always the mission. But yeah, I wrote this one. My mom came to visit me in Nashville and we were going furniture shopping, like setting up my little apartment that I'd moved into. And we took this exit off this interstate and we saw this young girl standing on the side of the road holding on to a cardboard sign. And it just kind of, we were at this red light and there was a vehicle in front of us. It was a construction truck and we watched the guy get out and he had like some Gatorades in the cooler of his truck and he grabbed some of them and gave them to her and then hurried and got back in his seat and the light turned green and we just followed the traffic and the day kept going. But something about that moment really stuck with me where I was just like, how do I get to be in this warm car sitting next to my mom going furniture shopping? And like this girl could be my age, like it's like we don't really get to control the left or right turns that happen in someone's circumstance of life. Like it's just the hand that you're given, the cards that you're dealt. And it's like, so much of that is not in our own control. And it made me think about the youth that we work with a lot in the Sunrise House. And that was always a conversation, growing up in our house. And so that moment with my mom definitely stuck with me. And I showed up to the writing room maybe a week or two later with Luke Laird and Barry Dean, who were both heroes of mine. I'd never written with either of them before. And they've written a ton of beautiful songs in the world. And it was kind of a weird moment because Luke had this loop started in the same key and pretty much the same tempo as a couple lines that I had going about this young girl I saw. And then Barry Dean came up the stairs with this folder of newspaper articles. And one of them was talking about homelessness and how different street names coordinate with different like income areas in a town. And I was like, wow, I really feel like we're supposed to write this song today. So that was a special moment. I'm glad that was the first single sort of laying the groundwork for the kind of music that I want to keep working on always.
But it's so powerful because I think, to have the thought is one thing and I think billions of people have that thought. But like I said earlier, to put that and distill that thought into a song, I think you do it. You're one of my favorite songwriters for that. I think you're incredible.
Aw, thanks, Ben.
So Nashville. So you don't go to college, you decide you're going to move to Nashville. Getting to Nashville firstly, I mean, most people would jump on a plane, few hours, they get there. What do you do? How do you get there?
Well, when I really decided, I'd made a few trips. I made my first trip to Nashville when I was 14, and I kept kind of coming back and flying as much as my parents would let me skip school. But then after I did some school touring in Canada and like a motorhome for 32 weeks. And when that tour wrapped, I was like, okay, I really want to focus on the creative side of music and I got to get to Nashville. And so my dad was a big believer in Malcolm Gladwell's like 10,000 hour rule, where if you really want to, become a professional at something or reach a level of mastering an art, the 10,000 hour thing. And I was like, Dad, I can't do that here. Like, I got to go work on my 10,000 hours. And so my pitch worked, thank God. And he helped me make the move. And we drove 47 hours from Grande Prairie, Alberta, all the way to Nashville, Tennessee. And, the drive took us maybe 4 days probably, I think. And we got to the border and the guard was like, so let me get this straight. You're driving her. I was 18 or 19. I think I was just about to turn 19. And, he goes, you're driving her and you're leaving her there. Like, you're just dropping her off. And my dad's like, yeah, I mean, I think so. The more the guard talked about it, he's like, is this a good idea? But anyways, we made it. And the further we got from home, I was like, I really hope this works out because I don't want to have to drive 47 hours all the way back home. So I'm still here. I'm still in the vehicle that we made the road trip in. It's still kicking. It's definitely seen better days, but it's this like Tacoma pickup truck that it's like my little piece of home. And it's what I've listened to like all my work tapes and demos and records in for the first time. And so I feel a little attached to this thing. I can't quite get rid of it.
Is that the truck that the song, The Thing That Brought Me Here? Is it about that truck
Yeah.
specifically?
It is specifically about that truck. Yep. So I figured I'd at least, it's been really showing its wear and tear. The check engine light's been decorating the dashboard, and I just am like, okay, I think it's almost time, and I just keep fixing it and putting more money into it. But I figured I'd at least write a song about it so that it could live on forever there.
How many miles do you think that truck's done?
I should know the answer to this. I honestly don't know.
It's got to be a couple of 100,000 at least, sure.
I was like, I think it's maybe it's like I've seen like 287, like I think it's close to 300,000.
Wow. So if that was a
Yeah.
person, they'd be like 104 or something. I don't know what there's a dog's year equivalent
Yeah.
with cars and
No,
trucks.
yeah, the dogs here. That's pretty good.
But yeah, you said about like so you listen to your demos and your songs in the truck. Do you think that's? I've noticed with you, there seems to be like a lot of movement. You seem to do things when you're traveling.
Yeah,
like,
I love motion. Love
I mean,
it.
seriously, do you get
I-
inspired by like do you get inspired by traveling? Because you said your 32-week trip in a motorhome. You're
Yeah.
here then everywhere. Do you prefer being on the move and seeing new things?
I do. I think it's probably just, running from the parts of me that I'm the most afraid of. And if I just keep moving, I never have to look at them for too long. So it's probably not healthy, but I do really love the motion for sure.
It again leads me nicely on to something that is going to be so hard for people to envision, and they have to go on YouTube and watch your Train Worktapes documentary. So, the Holiday Train.
Yeah.
Firstly, before we talk about your experience of it, can you just paint a picture of what the Holiday Train is? Because for me, it looked a bit like the Coca-Cola truck, but like a train.
Yeah, I can see that. I know you should come and experience the holiday train. Or you're just like your train life is at another level. Like trains to us are so special because they just don't really exist. And so they have this magic Hogwarts feeling to them that I know that isn't the same in the UK, but for us it's there and it's strong.
No,
So,
you say train to anyone in the UK, they'll just sigh and go, oh, always late.
yeah.
Always late, always cancel. Rail replacement service is what they say. The holiday
That's
train,
hilarious.
the holiday train is not that. It is incredible. It's like the
No.
Hogwarts Express, isn't it? It is beautiful.
It's literally like the Hogwarts Express or the Polar Express, maybe even closer because it's Christmas vibe.
Yeah.
So it literally is decked out. The outside of the train is completely lit in Christmas lights. And everywhere the train goes, Christmas music is playing out of the speakers on the train. Like it's literally, it's a holiday train. And so anyway, the one of the box cars, it's like an old school, very vintage, like the caboose, I think was something that Winston Churchill had rode at some point.
Wow.
Like it's very vintage and beautiful. And so one of the box cars is the stage. And so we pull up into these towns and the train door like folds down and the fog comes out from inside and we start playing and like everyone's standing outside bundled in the cold. And the first year that we did this, we played 65 shows in 14 days or 15 days. And so it's like all these different communities of people and everyone shows up bringing a donation for their local food bank. And so the show's for free, but you just bring in whatever you and your family can contribute. And so it's so beautiful to stand up there and witness like the best parts of humanity with like all this generosity and the resilience because it's flipping cold. Like some of these shows we played outside were like minus, I think the coldest one we did was minus 32 degrees Celsius in Saskatchewan. And it's like, this is insane, but people are bundled up and they're ready for it. And it's a tradition that's been going on a really long time. So it was a really fun adventure. And I was just so inspired by the people and the motion. And it was like my perfect storm of never quit moving. You just live on this train that doesn't stop. And I just kept writing and we stole gear from the stage car and brought it to the caboose and like set up a couple mics in our laptops and just hit record and ended up with this EP that I really love. So that was really fun.
Honestly, I watched the documentary. I felt
Oh, thanks
so.
for watching
No, it's
it, Ben.
great.
That's
I felt
awesome.
so. I hate to use this word, but I felt so jealous because it looked like such a great experience. You're there with your buddies. You're on this train. You've
Yes.
got like
You have to
chefs.
do it. You gotta come do
I'm
it.
there. I mean, no, we can't do it over here. It would not work over here. It'd be late all the time. There'd be
No.
nowhere to play. But I mean, you did such a good did such a good description of it. But honestly, you have to go and watch it if you're listening. It's just you can't imagine this thing. It's just the cool, and you're playing to so many people as well.
Yeah, it was. We'd pull up in some of these. My favorites were the really remote places because you could tell that they don't get live music very often and they're so excited and everyone's showing up and we're literally playing in like a main street where the trains tracks run through and we just stop there and there's cars for miles of people showing up to come and listen and then we'd play in some of the cities too and we'd step out. It was always like a surprise what we were going to see and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many people that would decide to come and gather. It was really cool.
Wow, that's yeah, I'm there. If you want to do it again, I'll do it with you.
Let's
I'll
go.
do it with you.
Come on.
I just want to just jump back to Nashville for a second, if that's all right. What are some of your favorite spots in Nashville? Because I've been going there for 10 years and that place has changed. You're just outside of town, aren't you? Just south of Nashville, is that right?
I'm a little south. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'm kind of like not in Franklin, but starting to head towards that direction. But Berry Hill is like my first little neighborhood that I stayed in. Like a fellow Canadian artist had like a rental garage loft that he turned into a space people could rent. And so I stayed there a lot. So Sam and Zoe's, the coffee shop there, and Baja Burrito, the little Mexican restaurant next by, are like my favorite places in Nashville. They're so great. They just like, it feels like the first time I came to Nashville every time I go by that neighborhood. And so that's something I love. And there's so many great venues and they're always like changing and growing and becoming something else. But a lot of the like Third and Lindsley is one of my favorite places, Basement East. It's really hard to beat the Ryman. It's such a special place. The Grand Ole Opry's got so much charm and there's just so much cool music history here and a lot of great studios and even just for me like driving up and down Music Row and so much of that has changed. It's a lot of like apartment buildings now or different things, but there's still this like heartbeat of the songwriting community to me that it's like you can't help but feel inspired by when you drive down 16th or 17th and you just kind of feel the magic of that.
Yeah, my favorite place is probably Red Door for that as well. It's a music community. Like Red Door is just a bar with a little hole in the floor where you can see a skeleton, which is just like for no reason at all. But that community, it's just so silly. It's like, look through that hole, great.
It's like,
But that community thing is amazing. But what about that first time though? You arrive in Nashville after that mammoth truck journey with your dad. Mm-hmm. You get there and what's the first week for you like? What's the first impressions? You're in this new city, what was it like?
Oh, it was so overwhelming. I mean, I had made a couple, trips, so I'd done a lot of the like I'd gone to the Opry and I'd done some of the like things on short bursts, but when I moved and we showed up in the truck, it was just like, oh wow, like I'm about to like plant some roots here for a while and see what this is like. And so I remember it's kind of like a little movie in my head. The day before my dad, we get there and he spent maybe 2 days setting up this little rental spot. And so we went grocery shopping and we went to the Guitar Center. And I remember just being like, he loves guitars. And so we were just looking around at all these instruments and everyone picking up a guitar and playing it in the store was so good. I was like, I have got to go home and practice. Like, this is insane. And we flukily got into a Bluebird show that night before my dad left. And it was Lori McKenna playing, of all people. And she's just become one of my songwriting like icons.
Yeah, for people who don't know, she wrote Humble and Kind for Tim McGraw and
Girl Crush and so many songs that she's so good. And so I'm sitting at the Bluebird and I'm watching her and she plays in a lot of open tunings and I was just like, I don't recognize any of these chords. Like I was just like, what is she doing? And so then I came home and dove into, dad gad tunings and I've never put my guitar back in standard since. And so anyways, that all happened like the first, couple days that I moved. And then there was definitely bouts of homesickness and of like, oh my gosh, I have so much work to do. Like everyone here is so good. And it just made me really want to learn and dig in. I spent so much time like by myself during that first year, just sort of like literally finding my voice.
I was going to say, because you were nominated for a Canadian Country Music Award when you're 17. So
Yeah,
you're a big fish in a smaller pond, not a small pond. Canada's a
right.
big country scene, but you're a pretty big
But a
fish
small
there.
pond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you go to Nashville. I mean, I have this experience. You get there and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm one of,
Yes. Like, and it's like, it's so humbling in the best way because I really just think it sharpens everybody. But you can either let it sand you down or you can let it like sharpen the arrow, And there are days where it felt like was losing myself, and then days where it felt like I was just getting better at the craft. And I think the mixture of that's what's, I don't know, important, I guess, in an artistic sort of evolution.
I 100% agree. I think, that's why Nashville's so special, because the standard is so high. But any artist I've met who really cares like you do, they're always pushing themselves and challenging themselves.
Yeah.
And that community thing is just, Nashville's such a special place for that. If
It
it's
is.
amazing to go as a tourist, but to kind of be there and live there and breathe it for a while, it's an incredible thing. I love what you said about your dad as well, looking at guitars. And he learned the guitar after you left home. Is that right? He sort of just started playing it. And then you played a show together in Edmonton.
Yes, well, in Grande Prairie actually. So I played the arena in my hometown on this last tour, which was pretty wild. It was the hockey arena that my first job as a singer was Canada, at all our local hockey games. And so I was like 9 years old and the jersey's like hanging way past my knees, and that was like my first gig. And so to go back and like play that arena and see all the people in those seats was just wild. But yeah, my dad picked up the guitar right as soon as I had kind of moved to Nashville, and he really fell in love with it. And he just loves to play. He plays with some friends that he's convinced to also pick up the guitar, and so they're all learning together. And now when I go home, we get to jam, which is pretty cool. And so I came home for the big hometown show, and I was like, I mean, you got to do it. But I really timed it right. I was like, he's so shy and spotlight's not really his thing, and I was like, I can't give him a lot of heads up on this, or he's just gonna think about it too much and stress. So I told him a couple days before, I was like, we should do Landslide. You should come up and sing it or play it with me. And he was like, no. And I was like, yeah. But he did. He was so brave. He totally killed it.
Wow. How many people was it on stage in the audience?
I think it was like close to 3,000.
Was that his first show?
Yeah, his first show. Yeah, he did great.
Oh my gosh, that's so. You must have. I've got a little daughter now who's 2 years old, and the thought that in 16 years maybe she could be doing that with me. Your relationship
awesome.
must be so. I wonder if you'd be doing what you are now, or if you'd be where you are now if it hadn't been for that relationship. It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. It is. I don't know that I would. It's kind of like those early days are so impressionable in whatever the interest is, or like the passion, and for me, music, but like enter whatever expression of creativity that might be for a young person. It's like just to know that you're believed in and that anything's possible, especially when you are growing up in a remote area. It's like, no, you can just figure out a way. If you really love it and you want to make it work, you'll figure it out. And like, just to have been instilled with that belief, I don't think I would be here without that at all. So I'm so grateful for that. I love that you have that with your daughter, and I always admire like looking out to families and people, experiencing live music. It's like the seeds that you're planting or just watering, even just a little bit, is something really powerful.
Oh, I love that. I think the tourist board of Alberta and Grande Prairie will be very happy with you, because I want to visit that. Sounds like an inspiring place, inspiring, beautiful place.
You got to come. Yeah. Come to Muskogee Park. It's going to be great.
Go sledging in Muskogee Park.
Yes, can't wait.
One question I'd love to ask you, just a couple more things. If you couldn't live in Nashville, where in the world, is there a place where you'd love to live? Is there somewhere you've been that you find so inspiring, or somewhere you'd love to live?
Okay, so New York City is always enchanting to me. I don't know that I could survive there for more than like 6 months, but I would just love to get the energy of that for a short term. I think that'd be super cool. And honestly, I would come to London. I just really love how it feels over there, and I love the opportunity that you guys have to literally just get on a train and go to so many different places and visit all these different countries and hear so many different languages, and like to just be in that. I just have loved all the tours that I've done over there, and people have been wonderful, and it's always been a race. Like literally the motion doesn't stop when we're there because we're trying to make the most of the trip and fit in as many shows as we can. But I really kind of just want to come for fun and like explore and just be a tourist, and because I've loved every bit of it I've witnessed so far.
We sang on stage in London, and you were on that tour then, and I mean, yeah.
That was the craziest tour I think I've ever been on. You caught me on like the craziest day maybe of my life.
I know. I mean, what was the story again? That you had to get a driver from the Premier Inn Hotel.
Yeah, from Penrith.
Yeah, he was a chef there, wasn't he?
The chef. Yep. So. Our tour manager / driver had gotten ill with the flu and could no longer proceed, and we had like a 5-hour drive to our show in Bristol, and both my bandmates, took a trip around the block with this big Sprinter van that's on the wrong side of the road and also was a stick shift and with the other hand, and they were like, no, like they burnt up the clutch. It was a disaster. We were like, okay, this isn't gonna work. And so then the breakfast chef, Kat, who's just our literal knight in shining armor, decided to just jump in the van and take us, and then like took us on parts of this tour and then trained back, and like he literally saved the day. I still can't believe that happened. But that day that we showed up in London was crazy because we showed up at the Scala is just gorgeous, but there's no elevators. And so Loden was like, we're like walking all this gear up these stairs, and we've just like found this chef that morning. And like, it was just like, we were like so disheveled on our wild touring, and our chef had to go back to work. And so another driver who also saved the day, Robin, showed up at the venue that night that we'd never met before. And all of a sudden, there was this guy that was just carrying our gear out the door. And we were like, oh my gosh, that must be Robin. And so this was all on the London show. It was crazy. We got a parking ticket. I burnt a hole in my pants with the iron. Like, there was a lot going on.
It kind of makes sense. We've had 2 meetings like that, because I think I first met you. You were doing Country to Country at the O2. And I felt like I was a big fan. You were sound checking. You just been upgraded to the main stage. Is that right, or something?
Yes, because we were filling in because Runaway June, I think, had to sub out, and so they bumped us up. And yeah, that's true. I've had a couple run-ins with you that way.
Yeah, you were sound checking. I was like, I'm such a big fan. You're like, yeah, great fun. It's fine. It only dawned on me about doing the biggest shows of your life, and then
I was so nervous. I was like, no, and the gear didn't make it. Was a whole every time we've played London, it's been an absolute disaster, and then the shows have turned out to be some of my favorite in my life. So I was so glad you came and sang.
Yeah, all I was considering the amount of stress you had, you were absolutely fine. You could have been a proper, throwing your toys.
I'm so sorry it wasn't a proper meeting, but
no, it was good. I remember after the show we had champagne in your dressing room because it was your last show of the tour. It was beautiful. Very quickly, just before you go, I've just got a few real quick fire questions for you. We're going to ask all our guests this. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yep.
The strangest place you've ever written a song?
Probably the Holiday Train.
Yeah, I should have guessed that. The place you feel most yourself?
On stage.
Okay, cool. That's everywhere, but you're great. That makes sense. The place you've never been to but would love to visit?
Italy.
Italy is amazing. I'm also quarter Italian, so if you want some recommendations, I'll give you some.
I definitely want recommendations. Okay. I'm going to hit you up about that.
The place you go to when the world feels a bit mad and you need to slow down?
The water. I'll find a lake or a beach or a river or something that just calms me down. Yeah.
Makes sense. And just very lastly, the place that feels most like home. I know you said stage, but actually an actual place.
An actual place. You're not going to let me stay all metaphorical here. No. I think Nashville for me now. I really do. I think it's kind of like, it feels like the right home base, and mostly that's my sweet dog's fault. So I'm very glad for that.
Oh, Sam.
Sam.
Tenille, thank you so much. I've genuinely loved chatting to you. It's been so much fun.
Such a joy to get to talk with you, Ben. Thank you for having me. I love this podcast you guys are doing. I'm really grateful to have been a part. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll see you soon, Tenille.
See you soon.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today. It was such a pleasure to catch up with Tenille. And if you enjoyed it too, please leave a rating and review so we know what you're making of country roads. Be sure to follow Tenille as well on Instagram at Tenille Townes for all the latest updates about her music and tour dates. You can also subscribe to her newsletter there. It's called The Wanderer's Notebook, which feels very on brand for this podcast. And because the show is pretty new, we need you to spread the word and share this episode with all your fellow country fans. If you're listening to this right now, hit follow so you don't miss any of the episodes we've got coming up in Series 1. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. There's loads more episodes coming your way. This podcast is an original production by Spiritland Creative, and it was produced by Emma Roberts. Join me again next Thursday on Country Roads. I'll see you then.